What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today I'll be going over the starts and sits for the Thursday game, as well as looking at some injury situations around the league. This week we have a lot of COVID situations to go over, but as you know by now, those can change in an instant, right? Now more so than ever. So you absolutely, this week on, need to be staying up to date with all those situations. You need to be on Twitter. Follow both myself and Adam Scheffner. You'll be fine if you just do that. Again, I'm going to go over injuries to start, so it's going to be a Thursday game, then injuries, then COVID situations. But I could be rendering this video, editing this video, and more news is going to come out. More news is going to come out Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so you have to be staying up to date. But we'll get into all that in a second. First, of course, have to start things off as usual. The stat of the day. Monday's stat was 10 wide receivers had at least 11 targets on Sunday, but only one of them had fewer than 15 full PPR points. I asked you who it was. The answer, Stephon Diggs. Jacob Wallen, first get that right on YouTube, and at BrianIzzo21, first get that right on Twitter. Today's stat. Among the top 10 tight ends in half PPR scoring for the entire season, only 2 have fewer than 4 receiving touchdowns. Kyle Pitts is one. Who is the other one? Okay, so Thursday game at first. Really, really good Thursday game this week. Chiefs at Chargers has massive playoff implications, but also is just probably going to be a very fun game to watch. This one has a 52-point total. Chiefs currently 3-point road favorites. All that makes sense to me. For the Chiefs, you're starting your studs. I got asked earlier this week about benching Travis Kelce since, he's been very mediocre in back-to-back weeks. My take on that sort of dilemma in general, not necessarily just with Kelce, but with studs in general, is which are you going to feel worse about? If you lose because you started Travis Kelce and you happen to only score 7 points, or you lose because you benched your first round pick and he dropped 25 because Kelce is one of the only tight ends capable of scoring 25, and that's why you lost. Which you're going to feel worse about, right? And when it also comes down to Kelce's going to have a better projection than probably everyone except for Kittle. I think Kittle might come out with a better projection this week. I'll let you guys know tomorrow. And you can actually see tomorrow. Remember, the website is fully free this week. You can see all the rankings there. You'll see that tomorrow. But who are you playing that really is going to project better and you're going to feel better about if things go wrong? So I just tend to think if you've got, your former first round pick, you've got a stud running back, wide receiver, tight end, don't bench them just because they've had a few down performances. Even looking back to this last week, they scored 48 points, right? 48 points, and no one on Kansas City had more than 4 targets because the game was over in the first quarter, right? If you're watching that, the game was completely over. They were not even trying in the second half. They had backups in. That wasn't a game you expect Kelce to go off in. I'm thinking this one's going to be a little bit more competitive. And then before the last 2 weeks, he was a top 3 tight end 3 straight weeks. He's been a top 8 tight end in 9 of 13 weeks this season. Play your studs. They're studs for a reason. Just don't be benching. Don't be getting cute in the fantasy playoffs. Also, the Chargers are a plus matchup for tight ends, so just add that in. So you're playing Kelce. I'd also play Mahomes. I play Tyreek Hill. Similar reasons. Difficult matchup for those two, but I just cannot see benching either of them. I would not play any pass catchers behind Tyreek Hill this week. Josh Gordon is on the COVID list, so obviously you can't play him. It doesn't really open up enough for me. Hardman, Pringle, they're both going to see the field more, but I don't think they're enough involved in the game plan where you're really relying on their 4 targets. If they have a ceiling of 4 or 5 targets, not a huge role in the red zone, you're just praying that they have their best game of the season. So unless you're in a 16-team league, I would shy away from all of them, especially this is a tough matchup for wide receivers. It's a great matchup for running backs, though, so I think you're playing Clyde as a running back, too. The volume wasn't fantastic last week, but again, it was a blowout in the first quarter. He would have seen plenty more touches. He was getting work in the receiving game. He had the touchdowns. He would have gotten a really nice workload last season if the game was remotely close. So I'm playing him. Darrell Williams has been solid the last few weeks, but it's been because of big plays, right, that he's busted off. He's only had 6, 8, and 5 touches over the last 3 games. And so I can't see starting him at running back 2 unless you're in a 16-team league. And then you could say, okay, I'll play him in the flex, but I'd rather play a lot of different wide receivers ahead of him. So I'm thinking maybe flex, second flex spot in a 14-team league. And then maybe you can start using him more in a 16-team league, but the vast majority you play in 8, 10, and 12-team leagues. And in those spots, I don't think you're playing Williams. Even again, in like a good matchup, I really think Klein's the only running back using for Kansas City. If we move on to the Chargers, we see Eckler expected to play. Remember we talked about on the Monday video how we need to watch that situation, that we're not really looking at any of their backup running backs, even if Eckler's out, but just watch and see his health. I'm fully expecting him to play. All the word out of their camp has been, hey, he could have gone back into the game. He's going to be fine this week. So I'm expecting him to play. You're obviously playing him. Other situations there, Keenan Allen is going to be activated, or actually is activated, going to play this week. Then we've got Chris Jones out for the Chiefs, and that's obviously going to impact the pass rush for Kansas City. And so I think you just combine all that and say, we're going right back to how we always view this team in basically every matchup. You're absolutely playing Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, and Justin Herbert. Just lock them in the lineups. I don't care who you have. And then I think Mike Williams is an excellent upside play at wide receiver too, especially in this game. The Chargers, number one, are very unlikely to be like playing with the lead for the entire game and playing slow, playing keep away, right? That is not going to happen. The most likely game script is that this remains close, or Kansas City is slightly ahead, or, maybe the Chargers are slightly ahead, but it's still such a competitive game that it's like effectively tied. It's like within 3 points. And if that's the case, they're going to be aggressive. They're going to be needing to move the ball downfield, needing to score. And I think that sets up well for Mike Williams to have a solid game. So I think you're playing Mike Williams as a wide receiver 2 this week. And then after that, Guyton is fine if you think he catches a long touchdown. Palmer is fine. Just understand, they saw the field a lot last week because Keenan Allen was out. They're going to be on the field less. Guyton's role remains the same. He's just a deep threat, and that's risky, right? So unless you're in a 14, 16-team league, it's not worth the risk saying, okay, Guyton's going to have 3 targets. Hopefully he catches a 50-yard touchdown, right? Because if he doesn't, he scores 2 points. So I'm not playing either of those two. But if you're in a very deep format and you absolutely need to, I suppose it's fine because they're going to have to throw the ball. And those two are talented, do have some upside, and can be played, just not for the vast majority, especially in the fantasy playoffs, right? Jared Cook, we're moving on to the tight ends. He's fine as like a desperation play. I would prefer not to go there. I also think this kind of mixes in with everything else that we're going to talk about today, that you can find a tight end that has like a comparable projection to Jared Cook that you can just use in the meantime. And just wait, maybe there's a situation where another team has a bunch of, people go on COVID IR, and you have a tight end that has, or is expected to see a much greater share of the targets. Or maybe there's a backup tight end that's now the starting tight end. I think there are possibilities there that could happen this week. And so instead of just locking in a very mediocre play at tight end, someone that you're really just hoping catches a touchdown, because he's probably going to score 2-3 points if he doesn't catch a touchdown. Instead of doing that, just wait, see if anything else pops up, and then you'll still be playing someone who has a very similar projection to Cook. So that's how I would approach it. I personally don't think he's in a good enough spot where you need to play him this week. And I think that's a good transition into these injuries, into these COVID situations. We've had 75 players test positive on Monday, Tuesday. That number is only going to increase as we get closer to Saturday and Sunday. Also, I've said Saturday twice now. Please know that there are 2 Saturday games this week. Raiders at Browns is one of them. Patriots at Colts is the other. If you have Jonathan Taylor and he's on your bench right now, understand that you need to make that move into your starting lineup before Saturday. I do not want to see anyone playing Jonathan Taylor, having them on their team, think, oh, it's okay, Sunday morning I'll set my lineup, realize Jonathan Taylor went off on your bench. Please set your lineups now, honestly. Just set what you think is going to happen right now, but make sure you're checking everything, especially on Saturday, because what happens? God forbid, what happens? Jonathan Taylor goes on COVID IR an hour and a half before the game. You need to check and make sure that doesn't happen, because you cannot be taking a 0 in the fantasy playoffs. So please pay extra attention this week. But if you're in the fantasy playoffs, I'm sure you are paying extra attention. But yeah, 75 positives so far. We've got multiple teams like, closing facilities, having like all virtual meetings. So let's just hop into that. First off, we're going to do injuries though. Then I want to close with COVID. Although some of the injuries are people coming off of the COVID list. Like we'll start off with now, Jalen Richard activated from the COVID list. He is likely to play this week. And if he is activated, you're obviously not playing him. Just bump down the target projection for Josh Jacobs. He goes out last few weeks. He's getting 1 million targets now that Drake is done for the season. Well, if Richard is activated, if he's expected to play, we got to take a few of those away from Josh Jacobs. You're still starting Jacobs. Just understand the ceiling is capped a little bit. Daniel Jones was not cleared to play this week, and so we're going to have another week of Mike Glennon, so fire up the Dallas defense. Aaron Rodgers, he aggravated his toe injury again this week, but he's been playing well. He said it's not like a huge issue. Obviously, like he would prefer to have this fixed. Like he'd prefer to have, 2 weeks off so he can just heal up. He's not going to have that. But I'm not changing anything, right? He's been playing so well with the injury. It's not like he went out there and lost the toe this week, right? He's still playing through like similar pain levels. I'm not changing anything. Any projections, nothing. I'm just assuming he's good to go. Yes, he has pain, but he's Aaron Rodgers. He's awesome. Darren Waller was a DNP on Tuesday. Please watch his reports on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, with Thursday and Friday especially being the most important. If he's not able to practice either of those days, or even if he's not able to practice on Thursday, assume he's out. Okay, just assume he's not playing. My lean right now is that he's not going to play again, but it's like a 65% lean. I'm like 65-35 that he's not going to play, but practice reports will impact that. If he goes out there today on Wednesday and he has limited practice, that skyrockets. That goes way up. But again, I don't think he plays, but it's not a huge lean. Just pay attention to that one. And obviously, like the biggest impact there is Hunter Renfrow, right? If Hunter Renfrow gets another week, gets like the focal point of this offense, he's probably going to have another like 10 for 100 and a touchdown, and he needs to be just jammed into lineups. If Waller's back, that obviously hurts him a little bit, but probably is still someone you want to play. Damian Harris, this is a very important one. He was limited on Tuesday. Watch him throughout the week. If he can stay limited all week, I'm assuming he plays. But I've seen reports that they're going to be extra cautious with him. So don't be shocked if he's like, limited Tuesday, doesn't practice Wednesday, or maybe limited Wednesday, takes a day off Thursday or Friday. Like he's just limited all week. He doesn't get any sort of full participation, and you think he's good to go. And then on Saturday, remember they're at the Saturday game, he's out. Don't be shocked, because they want to be safe with him. Again, my lean with this one is that he is going to play, but if he doesn't, then we're just jamming Ramondre Stevenson into our lineups wherever we can. But watch it, because we don't have all the information on this one yet. We see James Conner having an MRI on his ankle, Hopkins having an MRI on his leg. My lean on these two right now is that both of them are going to play, and they're just being very cautious, just making sure they have all the information, getting the MRIs done. But realistically, no one knows yet, because they haven't even released the reports. They probably know as a team, but they haven't told us yet. So just wait for this one to come out. I will adjust the rankings accordingly. You can, again, look at the rankings, see how they change. And also, if we know the reports on tomorrow's video, Friday's video, I'll let you know, right? But right now, we don't have all that information. Kareem Hunt, unlikely to play this week with the ankle injury. That'll leave the backfield down to Chubb and Ernest Johnson. Although, as we're going to talk about in about a minute here, who knows if even those two will be able to play this week. But if they can, Chubb, top 5 running back, obviously play him. And you guys know my take on Ernest Johnson. When it's Johnson and Chubb gets such a significant portion of the offense that Johnson's only getting like 5 to 7 touches. And I personally just cannot play someone getting that many touches, especially, like we'll go over, them missing Baker, missing offensive linemen, missing tight ends. It's very unlikely they're efficient on offense. Very unlikely that they're just like leaning onto Ernest Johnson because they're winning the whole game. And so probably not the best play. Tony Pollard, looking good for Sunday. That's very positive news. Zeke can like barely walk out there. He looks awful. So expect Pollard to see like 10 to 12 touches. But how healthy is he? That's something we're going to have to gauge this week. If he's good to go, if he's healthy enough to see a normal workload. Again, Zeke looks bad. Zeke looks injured. And even when Pollard was out, they were giving other running backs a workload, clearly capping what they're going to give Ezekiel Elliott. And he's just not been good. So if Pollard's out there, we can actually consider playing him in the flex. Zeke, probably only a flex this week. But yeah, we have to just watch this because obviously if Pollard is out, we still increase the projection on Ezekiel Elliott, just not to, 100% of the workload, because like we saw last week, they gave Corey Clement work. That is a clear indication that Ezekiel Elliott is not healthy. So watch this situation. We actually might be able to play Tony Pollard this week. The biggest news, though, is these COVID situations. Teams are getting decimated right now, and that's only going to get worse, right, as we approach the new year, right? You need to be prepared, as I said before, for players to get ruled out every single day this week, but also before the games on Saturday at 11:30 Eastern on Sunday mornings. So make sure you're checking that your players are good to go. As for the situations we know right now, the Browns are going to be very likely without Baker, Kareem Hunt, Jarvis Landry, all three tight ends, although I'm not 100% sure one of them might be able to get activated, and then multiple starting offensive linemen along with their head coach. The line as of this morning moved from -6.5 for the Browns to -3 for the Browns. I don't understand why it was -3, like the Raiders should be favored. Then we see Baker ruled out, and I believe the line is just completely off books at this point. But whenever it gets reposted, the Raiders are going to be favorites, right? There's no way with all those people out, the Browns are still going to be favorites in this game. So assume that the Raiders will be favorites. Assume that the total is going to be very low, so it's going to be a very bad game environment. So even if you still have players on the Browns that are playing, understand that. But it's a situation to keep an eye on, right? More players are going to test positive. Well, that's 100% going to happen on the Browns in particular because you've got, players who were exposed but still in the building with other players, and obviously it was being spread around before they were able to close things down, do virtual meetings, hold people out. So more players will test positive. It's looking right now that your top two options are going to be Chubb and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and if we do get both those guys playing, well, number one, again, understand the game environment's awful, but Nick Chubb would have like an insane share of the touches, so you obviously are playing him. And then Peoples-Jones would be fine, especially with Schwartz might not even play with concussion, because he'd be like the clear top target in the passing game. But from who, right? It's going to be garbage quarterback play. It's going to be a bad game environment. And it's already a team that would just prefer to run it. And they're probably still going to have to run it a ton in this game because who are they going to throw to, right? They can't just target Peoples-Jones every single play. So not a good spot. But start Chubb, and you could realistically start Peoples-Jones in the flex if you need to because he's still a talented wide receiver. He's a good prospect. He's played well when he's been healthy. Health has kind of been his biggest issue, but he's a good wide receiver. He had a really high weighted opportunity rating last week. Like, he's good, right? So he's not some scrub that's being elevated, but again, game environment not going to be great. Another team getting wrecked this week is the Rams. Right now, Odell and Henderson are both on the COVID list. I'm not, Odell's going to be out this week, but I'm not 100% sure on Henderson because he missed last week. He might be able to be activated in time, but check up on that one. Just watch throughout the week. I'm really not sure if he's going to end up playing. Obviously, that impacts Sony Michel. You're just jamming Sony Michel into lineups when Henderson is out. And obviously, this just concentrates the targets for Cooper Kupp and for Van Jefferson. But like we've seen with the Browns, every single day this week there's a possibility that more people get ruled out. And so, God forbid, could Stafford, Cooper Kupp also be ruled out this week? Yes, that could absolutely happen. I really hope that it doesn't, but it could. So pay attention. Also watch the Dolphins running back room. Lindsey, Gaskin, Ahmed, all on the COVID IR. Though I believe some of them could be activated in time. We just don't know yet because they're coming off of their bye. So watch this. It really just depends on how quickly these guys recover. If only one of them returns, obviously they're going to be a good play. If none of them returns, it is possible that Malcolm Brown is able to return this week from injury. And so if we have all of Lindsey, Gaskin, and Ahmed out, and Malcolm Brown is the only healthy running back, obviously they're going to have Patrick Laird, they're going to have other guys activated, but you would expect to see Malcolm Brown have a decent workload if that's the case. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen. We're just going to have to wait and see, but understand that this is a potential spot for value, and we could see a situation where Malcolm Brown isn't activated, and only Lindsey or only Ahmed or only Gaskin comes back. So watch, because if only one of these dudes is playing, they're going to be a very, very good play. But again, the moral of the story for this video is I can confidently say that more players every day leading up to Saturday and Sunday will be placed in the COVID IR, even it's going to happen while I'm editing and rendering this video. So I will pin a comment at the bottom of this video for anything that happens while I've been recording up until uploading. So anything that happens there needs to be updated on. And then anything that happens like after the video is posted, maybe I'll continue updating that pinned comment. But for the most part, follow me on Twitter at NickZilakFFA. Follow Adam Scheffner, just his name. You can also just go in to see who I'm following and follow a bunch of those people. Make sure you're up to date on that, and then just watch the rankings, right? Especially if you were watching the rankings and all of a sudden the person you're starting disappears, well, it probably means they're going to be out this week. Again, they're free, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You can check that out. If you're not playing, you just wanted to watch some football content, but you're not in the fantasy playoffs, you can see the sports betting information. You can see the DraftKings information. All that stuff is also free on the site. So check that out if you haven't done so already. But that, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here? Thanks for watching.